Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Oh, would you look at that? Steve Bannon going to prison. So now, on Friday, a court has ruled that Steve Bannon will be spending 4 months behind bars, as well as being ordered to pay a $6,500 fine for contempt of Congress. So now the Justice Department had actually recommended a harsher sentence of about 6 months and $200,000. However, and by the way, this is for defying a subpoena from the Congressional Committee investigating the January 6th riot. So now, when it comes to that sentence, it feels incredibly light. Let's be honest. Steve Bannon deserves a lot longer. But I've learned in this world that people don't really get what they deserve. Okay? So, you know. And by the way, not just for contempt of Congress. Again, that is what he is getting some jail time for. And by the way, he's already appealed this, and he will not be going immediately to prison during that appeal process. So, that said, let me show you Bannon after this decision was made. Here he is speaking.
The judge, today was my judgment day by the judge, and he stated for the appeal. We'll have a very vigorous appeals process. I've got a great legal team, and there'll be multiple areas of appeal. But, as that sign says right there, can we have the vote sign? On November 8th, on November 8th, there's going to have judgment on the illegitimate Biden regime, and quite frankly, Nancy Pelosi and the entire committee. And we know which way that's going. Either they've already been turfed out, like Liz Cheney, right, or have quit, like Kinzinger and other the Democrats, or they're about to be beaten like Luria and others, or they will lose their power and become a minority, and Nancy Pelosi and Chairman Thompson, all of it. On November 8th, the American people will raise judgment, and we will groom. The Biden administration ends on the evening of the 8th of November. And some other thing is that the Department of Justice, Merrick Garland, will end up being the first Attorney General that's brought up on charges of impeachment, and he will be removed from office.
So, yeah, Bannon. Not deterred, apparently, from saying dumb things, ridiculous things. But there it is. You can see him talking about, Nancy Pelosi.
Nancy Pelosi's gazpacho police.
Because, of course, that's all they focus on, by the way. All they focus on, all they talk about. Nancy Pelosi. Okay, whatever. Nobody cares. But there's two stories going on, okay? So now there's the one that's the right wing is telling, and then there's reality, as it often goes. So now Bannon says, I'm a victim. The deep state is coming for me. I'm just standing up for the truth. That's what I'm doing. I'm standing up for the truth. What truth? What truth? There is no truth. Not on your side. Now, the truth of the situation is that Bannon would rather go to jail because he knows ultimately that's going to help him in the end. Remember, this guy's a super ideologue, okay? The reason, again, he didn't give information to the January 6th committee. Why? Because he knows it would likely help their case against him and Trump and others get stronger. Look, Bannon was deeply involved in the plot to overthrow the government and install Donald Trump, White House, as an illegitimate president. Yes, illegitimate president. He knew what was going to happen on January 6th. Again, he played a very significant role in it. I think Bannon's a goddamn traitor to the country. Absolutely. That's the reality. I think he's a traitor. I think he's a criminal. Yeah, well, look, I don't just think he's a criminal. He is a criminal. He's a convicted criminal. He stole money from his own supporters and went to prison for it, only to be pardoned by Donald Trump. So now, for Bannon, understand that he has a vested interest or had a vested interest in keeping Donald Trump in the White House. Why? Because it would have helped him keep him out of prison. But of course, there's more than just that. Look, he supports all of Donald Trump's racist policies, closing off the border, and basically only wanting white people in this country. He's a white supremacist, white nationalist, full-blown racist, and even coward. I'm going to go here to a quote. This is from Madeline Peltz, Deputy Director of Rapid Response at Media Matters. So she has the misfortune of watching Bannon's podcast all the time. Yikes. Now, here's what she wrote. After being given ample opportunities to share the truth about his role in the insurrection with the American people, he refused to do so. Up until the last minute, Bannon tried to weasel his way out of punishment and showed us that he's willing to do anything to protect and enrich himself. Of that, of course, we know. Now, he is reaping the consequences of his cowardice. Bannon has weaponized his audience time and time again and continues to push the same conspiracy theories that fueled an attempted coup of the U.S. government. Bannon still denies the 2020 election results and is at the center of right-wing efforts to place QAnon and other conspiracy theorists at critical choke points of American democracy, from his precinct project to poll workers and observers to school board members to the Secretary of State level. Look, there's a separate story, and I didn't get to it today, but poll workers, look, people at election sites are already calling in and saying these poll workers, supposed poll workers, they're harassing us. The poll watchers. Yeah, they're sitting here and they're filming me and my kids. That's one of the complaints. You know, when we're just trying to we're trying to vote. They're sitting there filming us or watching us. This is voter intimidation. This is voter harassment. Well, yes, that's their plan because they don't want you to vote. They don't want you to vote. And so that's part of it. Now, she continues by saying, though Bannon was held responsible for his contempt today, well, I mean, on the charge of contempt, sure. But let's be clear. He has a contempt for our way of life. He has a contempt for our government. He has a contempt for multiculturalism. He has a contempt for diversity. He has a contempt for anyone who looks different than he does. He has not faced accountability for that contempt. And I wish he would. I just don't know if that's going to happen. But she says, the threat of Bannon's burn it all down approach continues to drive the Republican Party's descent into full-blown fascism. Again, true. Yes, the right wing has gone full authoritarian. But I think she's, again, to go back to where I was saying that he hasn't been held accountable. Well, she's wrong on that. Again, Bannon has a lot to be held to account for. And ultimately, I think this jail sentence will help him because he's going to galvanize more and more support from his, martyrhood and victimhood complex for something that he chose to do. Remember, he could have just complied and turned the document. Didn't the right-wingers always say this all the time? You should have just complied. You should have just followed the orders. You should have just followed the law. Well, they'll say that to a black person or after a black person was murdered by a police officer, but they never do that when it comes to things like, oh, you're supposed to present documentation to the court or else you're going to get in trouble. Well, again, rules for, thee, but not for me.